Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Reprogramming Room podcast, the space where the subconscious gets reprogrammed, limiting beliefs get deleted, and your next level self becomes your new normal. I'm your host, Beth, an emotion, body, and belief code practitioner, and living proof that life gets to be and feel the way you always knew it was meant to. So, welcome back. It has been a good couple of months since I did an episode. Life has been lifing. And honestly, I felt this pull to do an episode. I don't even really know what I'm going to talk about. It's just going to be a big mishmash of things. We'll see where things take us. So, a little bit of a life update. Well, a lot of. We'll start there. Why I really haven't been updating. There was a time the last couple of months where I was like, I should do a podcast episode. And then, because I'm me and I don't do things because I should. I do things because I feel lit up by them, because my sacral says fuck yes, because I'm excited by things, etc. My intuition tells me whatever, all those delicious, gorgeous things. That's why I do things, not because I should. So I didn't do a podcast episode, but I did think about it a lot. So let's rewind a little bit. Oh my God, I don't even know, where are we now? We're in August. So May, go back to May. If we go back to May was my biggest income month yet. Just my fourth or fifth month in business. And I hit over 10K in revenue. So I was very happy. And I felt that I was getting a lot of momentum in my business. And honestly, I felt on top of the world. I felt like my creativity was through the roof. I felt so good. At least I really thought that I did. And then in June, I had a family holiday planned. So it was a holiday that had been planned for a while. And so in June, I was basically forced to take off time from my business, thrown completely out of my regular routine and pulled from the momentum that I thought that I had going. And boy, was this a wake-up call. When this happened, it was a real shock to my system. Honestly, I didn't even want to be on holiday. Like, I was so caught up in my business and the momentum that I was gaining that all I wanted to do was be working on my business. But I was on this family holiday, so of course, it was in Japan where my brother lives. And of course, I wanted to be there. I did, deep down. And it's family holiday. And family is a very big value to me. So I wanted to be with my family. And you probably know, if you've been on family vacations or, spend any time with your family, any regular person, I have a good relationship with my family. We're fairly close. But, it's still my family. And it can always bring up your, shadows at the best of times. And so it was already tough. It was just a couple of weeks, 2.5 weeks, I think. So not too long. And I'm someone who is very, very used to being in my own energy. I live alone. I work from home, mostly online. I'm always in my own energy. I don't have many regular places where I regularly see people. Of course, I have my friends and my family, and I see them, but I see them in very, small doses. Maybe, a couple of hours a week, each person, right? It's a very small amount. And so that in itself is already a very big curveball for me. And it was. And so I was really forced out of this momentum in my business, and it was very difficult. But what I didn't realize then, what I realize now in hindsight, is it really forced me to stop, clearly, and slow down. And what I didn't realize in May and in April and March even, but especially May and April, especially May, my first 10K month, I was so caught up in the excitement and my clients getting amazing results and feeling so fulfilled and satisfied in my business that this cheekiness, I did not realize this cheeky energy had snuck in, where I was very much operating from a very go, 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 go energy. And in hindsight, I was constantly being told in a lot of directions, being around a lot of intuitive people, I was being told to slow down. This is not like a sprint. This is a marathon. And I was like, yeah, I'm slowing down. And I honestly thought I was, but I wasn't. And so when I was forced to stop in June, I was finally able to see how much I was operating in my business from a very unsustainable energy, a very, very, very unsustainable energy for me. And it wasn't necessarily even, although I was like a lot of go, 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 like physically, it wasn't just about the physical, it was very much energetic, because as you know, we're all about energetics here, and I am all about energetics. I work with energy. Everything for me is very energetic. And it was very much in my energy where I was still very much unconsciously working from this place of lack and force and impatience and wanting to make things happen now. And while things felt good, I didn't realize, again, as I said, until I stopped, like how much I was honestly very close to burnout already, just 5 months into my business. And it was very unsustainable. And so those 2.5 weeks on vacation were very difficult for me. I felt like I was very much like kind of in between these identities. And it was actually is really, and I'm sure a lot of people, if you're listening to this and you are like someone who's very ambitious, but even people aren't, like it's jarring. It's very actually difficult to force yourself to slow down. Like how many times have we been on a vacation where we're like, yeah, we're going to relax. All our stresses are gone, but it's like hard for you to actually slow down and relax. And that was where I was at. And when I started reflecting on things, I just saw like just how burnt out, like how close to burnout I was. And the end of May was, I basically had this huge quantum leap. And it was obviously my income, but it was also, because I think in March I made around around 5.5 revenue. And then in April it was around 6K revenue. So then to be over 10K in May, it did feel like a lot. And then February was really when I went all in my business. And when I started kind of really putting my energy toward it, and that was only around 1K. So there was like some big jumps, right? And so it felt like things were moving very quickly. And so to be thrown out of that, it was very jarring. And it was a real struggle to stop, to slow down. And what I noticed was my biggest fear, and this was also one of the biggest indicators to me that I was still operating from a place of like force and lack and scarcity, was that when I hit that 10K, I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. This is a fluke. I can't do this again. Holy shit. Oh my God. What if this is it? What about if this is the only 10K month I ever make and I can't do it again? What if? Terrified. And another big thing was, oh my God, it's June. I have to do it again. Like it felt like I was starting from the beginning the next month, and it felt like this huge task that I had to get to another 10K month. And these were huge indicators for me. And not not at the time, but again, in hindsight, you don't learn a lesson straight away. But in hindsight, after I'd kind of, sat in this energy for a while, I realized, holy shit, this is not, like, I was not creating this from a space of ease and flow. And yeah, like, creating money is easy for me. As much as I was telling myself I realized I actually wasn't. And so, me being me, the universe had to basically completely pull me out. Like, it was, looking back now, it was such a massive blessing in disguise to, at the time, I was very upset. Like, it sounds crazy, but I was very upset to go on holiday because I felt like I was being robbed of my momentum. And it was something that, it wasn't until probably even like July, even now, just in August, I'm really starting to see, like, holy fuck, like, that was a huge blessing. And thank you so much, universe, because if I hadn't been forced out of that momentum, out of my routine, out of my, that like everything focused on business, everyday business, need to make this work. I want to make this work. I'm doing well. Oh my God. Energy, excitement, adrenaline. If I wasn't taken out of that, I would have kept going and burnt out for sure. Like, within a couple of months. Probably now I'd be burnt out. And at the time, like, I was so caught up in the excitement of it all, right? So I never could have seen that. But when I got back from my vacation, I was like, oh my God, like, I'm just going to go back into it. Like, when I was in my vacation, I was so caught between, I want to be on this holiday, but also I just want to be in my business. I was so in this very, limbo state, which I hated. And I was just like, yeah, I'm going to get back and I'm just going to, like, work on my business. And there were other things that were also, like, my identity was almost just, like, changing at such a rapid pace that my nervous system could actually not physically keep up. So I flew business class over to Japan for the first time in my life. And I noticed, like, I was very uncomfortable in this situation, which sounds crazy. Like, I couldn't enjoy it. I wanted so badly to enjoy it, and I was very excited. But I was like, my nervous system was not okay with this. And it sounds so weird. But I'd been shifting my identity, and because money's always been something that's been, like, very, weird for me. Like, it's always been a big kind of sore point for me, something I've always felt a lot of insecurity around. And so flying in business class was like it felt like a big kind of thing for me. And that was, I guess, also part of that quantum leap. And all this happened so quick. And yeah, I honestly, like, I couldn't hold it. I could feel the whole day I was flying. I felt very frantic and my nervous system was on edge. And when I was coming back from Japan, I had requested an upgrade and to business class again, and I didn't get it. But I could even feel, like, just being like, am I going to get it? Am I going to get it? Like, nothing felt natural. And so my nervous system was completely not acclimatized. And that's, again, like, in July, that's when I started to see that's the same thing that had happened with my income. I made this huge leap to 10K, something that I'd wanted for ages, right? We all want this, especially in this kind of space of healing and coaching, these elusive 10K months, right? And it was something that I wanted for so long. And, I could see my nervous system was not able to hold it at all. I had not integrated properly this identity. And so the next couple of months, June was very slow in business. And I almost, even before, I was kind of not exactly expecting it. I was kind of hoping it wouldn't. The momentum would keep going. But obviously, because I did take 2.5, almost 3 weeks off my business, almost entirely. Like, I did a session here and there, but I was really trying to be present with my family and in Japan, my favorite country in the world, and with my brother who lives there and his wife, etc. And my friends, and I didn't want to work a lot. So I did kind of expect a little bit of, slowness, but I was hoping it would be a little bit more than it was. And when I got back from vacation, I reckon around, it was just around the 20th of June, somewhere around there, 21st, something, 22nd, somewhere around here. I was honestly in my head, I was like, yep, I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to go. I'm going to pick up this momentum and go. And it was such a weird feeling because it felt like I just couldn't. I had no motivation. I felt complete lack of creativity. I felt completely blocked. I wanted to do podcast episodes. I wanted to post. I wanted to create more content. I wanted to keep that momentum going. But I just couldn't. The creativity was, I felt completely blocked. Anything like, and I am, as I said, I'm someone who I cannot work. Like, I cannot work and being a generator, like, it doesn't work for me. If I'm forcing myself to come up with things, it doesn't work. It's like I'm pushing against a wall. And so I was still fighting this energy. I was still fighting this lesson. And it wasn't until around somewhere in July where I was like, oh my God, like, this is the lesson. And I was starting to see it, and I was starting to be super thankful for it. I was finally starting to stop pushing against it. Whereas, like, shit, this is it. Like, I can really see now. I was so close to burnout, and I was still not creating this income and these clients and this result from the energy that I truly want. And July was also fairly slow. But it was, in hindsight, like, looking back now, I'm so thankful for it. And I made so many shifts, and I honestly feel like a completely different person to who I was back in May when I had that big month. Because what I wanted, and this is always something I have really grappled with, but because it's not a traditional path, but ever since I was young, ever since I can remember, I have never been someone who wanted to work a lot. And everyone can say that and, like, laugh and, yeah, of course no one wants to work. But even in things that really light me up, like, if I really tap into who I truly feel like I am, and it's almost like I want to cry when I say this because it's still something I'm not 100%, like, accepting of, is my true soul calling, which sounds insane to say this, is I just feel like I am meant to be a woman of leisure. And I love what I do, but it still doesn't mean that I want to be working, 8 hours a day. And the last couple of weeks, I had a session with my intuitive friend, Megan, and we read each other's energy, and she helped me a lot. She was one of the people back in May and April that were the messages I literally got from her every single week when we would tap into each other's energy was, yeah, you just need to slow down. And I kept saying, I am slowing down. And she's like, your higher self just keeps saying you need to slow down. And I get that from my hydrotherapist, who's also very intuitive and tapped in. And whenever I'd see her, she'd be like, Beth, you like, gotta slow down. You're in this for the long haul. You gotta slow down. And honestly, I just kept getting these. And I just kept thinking, yeah, fucking A, I am slowing down. But, it's the lessons we need to learn, right? We're blind to our own shit. Even when it's literally, like, told straight to our face. So anyway, we had a session just a couple of weeks ago. And she really, really finalized the integration of this lesson for me. And this is something an exercise that you can do. So when I was kind of, like at the end of this kind of period where I felt kind of like, and it was like I was in like another kind of period, like an ego death and a dark night of the soul in June and July. And I was feeling like I'm coming out the end. But she really just tapped in and put the cherry on, like the icing on the cake, the cherry on the top, right? And she said, you know, what you're still doing is, and this is an exercise that she channeled directly for me, but this can work great for you as well. So what she told me to do was to get a piece of paper. And so basically she told me was, you know, you're still operating from an energetic frequency that isn't aligned with how you picture your life and how you want to feel. Because that's what happens in life, right? Everything we desire, everything we want, we think we want the thing, the person, the money, blah, 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 whatever it is, right? The house, the car, we think we want the thing. But what we really, truly desire is the feeling that we think that thing is going to bring us. And so this is what she said, you know, you're still not living how, because, and I'm all about, right, energy and identity embodiment and identify, I can't talk, embodying this, you know, identity that already has the things that you desire, lives the life that you desire. And she told it to me. She said, you know, you're not, like you're this, you maybe think you are, but you're not. And she got me to do this great exercise, so I highly recommend this. So what she said to do is to list down, basically, in detail, my ideal day. So get a piece of paper, put a line down the middle, you want 2 columns. And on the left-hand side, you're going to write, like, your ideal day. So, for example, for me, it was like around 7 a.m., wake up, and then, you know, 7:30, walk my dog with, and this is your absolute dream life. So for me, with my soulmate, my dream partner, in my dream relationship, we're going to walk the dog together. We're going to wake up next to each other. So maybe 7 a.m. was like, wake up next to my partner, you know, and then 7:30, walk my dog, who I love, with my partner. And maybe 8 a.m. or 8:30, come home, make breakfast, make coffee. 9:30, go to CrossFit. 10:30, come home, have a shower, get ready for the day. You know, 11:30, make lunch with my partner. You know, 12:30, eat lunch. Whatever. Like this is just an example. I'm just running through things, but it was a very detailed, like hour by hour, minute by minute, like, you know, the time in your absolute ideal dream day, in the day of your life where you've already got everything you desire. So your income, your thriving business, your dream job, your dream partner, your dream house, your dream living scenario, whatever it is, you're going to write out a very detailed description of that. So, as I just said. And then in the right-hand column, what you're going to write for every single activity. So say, for example, I wrote 7 a.m., wake up next to my partner. You're going to write the energetic frequency that you want to embody. So not the feeling. So it's not, which is actually is funny. This is a point where I was a bit confused. She was like, no, it's not the feeling. So, you know, I want to feel, for example, loved, but it's not that. It's more the frequency. So what is the frequency? Say you wake up in bed and how do you want that to feel? You want to feel cozy, luxurious, abundant. It's more these energetic signatures. So say, for example, I had in my dream ideal day, 2:30 p.m., go for a ride on my motorbike. And so how did I want that to feel? I want to feel that energetic frequency for me is adventure, freedom, that's a big one, abundance. These were kind of the 3 things. And then, for example, when I wake up next to my partner, how do I want that to feel? Cozy, luxurious, because I want my environment to feel luxurious. So maybe, you know, that's, you know, the sheets, the feeling of the sheets, just the cozy bed. And then, you know, that feeling of love, because it could be love, you know, I want that to be part of the thing, embodied love, you know, because I feel love and coziness next to my partner. And then walking my dog, for example, you know, how does that feel? Well, I feel free. I feel, and this is a big one for me, as I said already, leisure, that word really started coming through, because for me, I really want my life to be this embodiment of leisure, which is the exact opposite of force and hustle and grind. Which again, as I've said, this is personal for me. But that's always been for me something that I've always felt this true soul calling towards. No matter what I do, it's that is it. I've never, and being an entrepreneur for a long time, it's been a very sticky thing for me, because if you imagine entrepreneurs, a lot of people who do their soul calling, that it's very much about, if you love it, you want to spend 10 hours a day doing it. If you love it, it should just come naturally. And it does. I love what I do. But for me, life is about the lived experiences. And it's funny because there's something that I've always pushed against. But even my friend Megan, shout out to her if she's listening to this, she even said this when she was tapping into my higher self. We did an exercise where we were tapping into what is our higher self's kind of highest value or calling in this lifetime. And she said my higher self was very much very blatantly obvious about, for me, it's experiences. It's life experiences. It's feeling like I'm getting the most out of life in everyday experiences. And it's funny because that's also kind of part of what my life theme in human design is. And it's always been something for me that I held so much shame around this and so much guilt and so much things shouldn't be able to come this easily, where I can just work an hour a day and make $10,000 a month, I shouldn't do this. This is not okay. I'm not worthy of this. It's shameful. People are going to judge me. People have it so hard. All these stories that I have. And clearly, I still have some there, but I've come a fucking hell of a long way. Oh my God. I used to, when I was young, I'm going off track a little bit, but when I was young, when I was in high school, this is legitimately what I used to do. So studying came fairly easy to me. I don't know why. I felt that I would get very good grades, and of course I've had to put work in, I'd get straight A's, mostly, maybe 1B. And I was in, the top maths classes. I did, I remember I had to, in 1 year before the end of my schooling, I wanted to be an engineer, but I hadn't been doing physics. So I had to jump into final year physics without having any physics knowledge. So, and I got a very high score in physics. So it was very things, I wasn't, I wasn't a bloody genius, but things felt like they came fairly easily to me. And so I felt so ashamed about this, that I literally didn't feel like I had to study for hours and hours and hours on end. That I would literally go to the library and sit in the library, no joke, for about 8 hours. So the school I went to, we had more kind of a university structure. So we had a lot of free periods, and our classes were about 2 hours long, and we had them twice a week. And they're in between, we had a lot of free periods. We started at 8:30, and our latest class would go to 5, and then they would have free periods in between. And so all my free periods, I felt so ashamed that I wasn't, quote unquote, working as hard as others. So I would force myself to sit in the library and pretend to study. I would study, but if I sat there for 4 hours, I would maybe do 30 minutes of study, maybe an hour. And the rest of the time, I just kind of sit there staring at a wall. We didn't really have mobile phones then. We did, but not like an iPhone we have now. I didn't have an iPhone. I had an old smartphone. And so it wasn't I wasn't just sitting there or scrolling on Instagram or something. Instagram wasn't a thing then. Facebook was barely a thing then. I think MySpace was barely a thing then. So it wasn't like that. I just used to sit there, just staring at the page, or just doing nothing. And I used to force myself to do that to make myself feel worthy that I was doing enough work. And I used to do this all the time. And this carried on long into my uni days and in my first business and even in my other businesses. Like it just carried on. And this was a big thing that I had to learn this recent, ego death was no. Like, I'm all about embodying this fucking identity. Why the fuck aren't I doing it? Like, yes, and I'm also all about, this by now probably, that I am all about, like, I am 100% behind however the fuck you want to live. It is 100% possible and plausible for you to, for example, and this is, a big on like purpose, yes. Money, yes. However the fuck you want to do it, yes. If you want to be a stay-at-home mum, if you want to be a stay-at-home dog mum, and you still want to work 1 hour a day, and you still want to make millions each year, it's bloody well possible. It's possible. So embody the identity, the version of you that already has that, and I was not doing it. And that exercise that I just shared with you before, that is the one that really woke me up. I'm like, shit. And even now, like, I'm constantly having to remind myself of this every day. Some days are easier. I'm still kind of working my way into really embodying that identity. But as soon as I started doing it, money started flowing in. Not as much as I'd like, but I'm getting there. But easily, right? And the very first day, I hadn't even done the exercise yet, but even when she put that idea in my mind, I started seeing, holy shit, like, once you see something, you can't unsee it. I started seeing where I was not showing up the way I actually desired to, in the energetic frequency that I wanted in my life. And so the very next day, I went and I did it. And that day, I was walking my dog. We went to the middle of nature. I felt freedom. I felt leisure, luxurious. I felt, the sense of adventure. I felt these energetic signatures of my life that I wanted. And, at 11 a.m. in the morning, I got to a cafe with my dog, was about to order breakfast and saw, sessions booked. I didn't do anything. I started waking up to money in my account, like people purchasing things. Because I just started embodying it. And so that is my biggest question to you. Where are you not embodying the frequency, this identity that you want? I think a lot of times this is a huge conditioning in our society, and I still struggle with this. So, I'm not saying that I'm perfect by any means, but we have all this backwards. We have this backwards that, we have to sacrifice now in order to have what we want later. And I used to feel this way too. I used to beat myself the fuck up because I'm like, no, I'm not doing enough now. I'm not doing enough now. But you probably know by now that the energetic frequency that you create something with is the energetic frequency that you're going to have to maintain to keep that in your life. So that was the biggest lesson for me here. I had made that more than 10K revenue that month, but I was in no way willing to maintain that unsustainable energy of force and push for me. And so, yes, the next couple of months were slow, but it was a huge wake-up call because, that is not me. I am not willing to do that. And I 100% believe that you do not have to. You do not have to. Because if you're working from the energetic realm, because if you're following this, you probably are, we are working from the subconscious level. We are not working from this physical level. So everything goes from identity to thoughts and beliefs, actions, which is the physical, right? Most people work from that physical level and they completely forget about the energetics, the beliefs, the identity work. But when you work from the identity level up, everything just shifts naturally. There is no need to force and push and hustle and sacrifice. And this is a huge misconception in our society. And it's one that I completely just want to dismantle. Like, it's bullshit. Like, yes, if you believe that you have to sacrifice and hustle and force and grind to get what you want, then yeah, that's going to be your reality. But I don't believe that. And I believe that if you're listening to this, that is not you either. You do not want that. And you do not want to live by that bullshit, basically. That outdated programming, that outdated conditioning, that outdated belief system. No, and you don't have to. Because that is how you wake up one day and you realize, holy fuck, what have I created with my life? I am not fulfilled. I am burnt out. I can't sustain this. You know, I have this business and it's going great, but I'm terrified of it all falling apart. I'm terrified of stepping away and everything just crumbling out from beneath me. And this is really like as jarring for me as it was and as upsetting as it was during the time when I was going through it. I'm so thankful because honestly, because my goal was for June was to double that. So my goal was actually 20K. And my revenue ended up being about 3.5K. So it was nothing, right? And yes, I was so upset. I cried a lot. I was going through multiple kind of ego deaths, a huge dark night of the soul. I felt like I was pushing against everything that was going on. And I felt no motivation, no creativity, just nothing. I felt so upset. But honestly, I'm so thankful because the truth is, like, yeah, yes, it felt like it all crumbled from beneath me. But that is a very good indicator, a very good sign that I was not building something sustainable to begin with. And as my hydrotherapist said, my very, very intuitive, lovely hydrotherapist that always knows exactly, taps in exactly what I need to hear, even though normally at the time I'm not prepared to hear it. It normally sets in, like it settles in later. I'm like, oh, that's what she's talking about. Anyway, that because I want to build something sustainable. And for me, like, it's not going to be sustainable because I'm so focused on energetics and I work at such an energetic level. And I'm sure if you are listening to this and if you are someone who does this work, you also are probably someone who needs to work on that energetic level. You cannot ignore it. And I cannot ignore it. Because when I do, and this is exactly, like, I start to go back to those feelings of deep depression, anxiety, dread, just despair. That's a clear indicator to me that I'm pushing against my soul. That's a clear indicator that something is, I'm not living my life the way from a soul, heart-led place. And I was listening to a podcast last night by Catherine Zenkina. You may know her, Manifestation Babe. And she said, and I feel like this is so true for me too, because, when you're in this spiritual space, when you're in this very deeply connected, intuitive space, like, I cannot do anything that does not light me the fuck up. And also, I'm a generator, right? And she's also a generator. And so if you're a generator, this especially probably really resonates with you. It's like, if something does not light me the fuck up, like, I can't do it. I'm sorry. Like, it's just not even, like, and I've always felt that way my whole life. Like, I used to feel when I was a teenager that, like, I felt absolute despair thinking about my future because I used to feel that the only way that I could make money was to do something I didn't like. And doing a path in life, a career, a job that I didn't like to make money literally felt like death. Like, I'd rather die. And I would literally have these fucking fears that, like, I would be homeless on the street because I was not willing to do jobs or sit in an office for 8, hours a day, wasting my life away, because that felt like literal death to me. So I honestly thought that I was going to be penniless and homeless. And I was terrified to grow up. were literal fears I had. And I do not come, as I've mentioned before, I do not come from a family where we struggle with money. Like, these were not fears that I had to deal with growing up. These fears, like, it's not like, maybe these were rational because, we'd been homeless before, or we'd been close to being homeless before, or, we struggled for food or something. Like, no. These were fears that were coming from, like, no, like, I would prefer to die than have to make money from a way that just drains my soul. So, yeah, that, I don't know where I was going with that, I forgot, but the point is, probably if you're listening to this, you are the same, and I cannot do anything that is not soul-led. And so, lately, and, the last couple of weeks, I'm really feeling like it's almost like I'm coming out of this super long period, honestly, like, it's a long period. It's not just been these 2 months. It's been years, where almost my whole life, like, where I can really feel it in my energy now. I'm at this point where I'm like, oh my God, like, yes, I can actually make a business and live my life exactly how I want. Like, I literally can have clients coming in. I work, 1 to 2 hours a day max, and I'm still making multiple 5 figures a month. And that never felt possible. And there were so many stories I had, as I said, of I'm not deserving of this. People are going to hate me. People are going to judge me. I'm not worthy of this. You're disgusting, Beth. Like, there were so many things, but I've done so much work around this. Finally, like, I literally don't even care what people think. I do not feel like I'm greedy. I don't feel guilty. I don't feel shame around this anymore at all. I've reached this place where I can actually receive money in this way. And it's really shown. Also, in June, I put up my prices, which was scary. It took me a few weeks to actually do it, but I did. And clients have been coming to me with my new prices. And for the first time in my life, I feel very natural accepting this price for this service. And I do feel like this work is really, I do love my work. I absolutely love my work. And I feel very confident that I'm good at it. And I feel very confident that it helps people and that it honestly changes people's lives. Just this morning, I worked on my mum last week and she had this rash, and people always ask me this, like, people in your life must always ask you to work on them. But no, ma'am, it's weird though. People in my life actually never really ask me to work on them, which is funny. Like, it's more me offering because I just love doing it so much and I want to help people, right? So, I offered my mum, she had this rash that was kind of on and off, and we'd worked on it a little bit before when I was doing my certifications, but we didn't quite get to the bottom of it, and I probably wasn't as good as a practitioner as I am now. I couldn't see the things that I can now. And so I worked on it, and, she said to me, I said, it was about a week since I worked on it now, and I said, how's your rash? She said, oh yeah, it's basically gone. It feels much better. And so, again, that's it, right? Like, it's that more confirmation, that, like, I know I'm good at what I do and I love doing it, and I know I can change people's lives, and I don't have to fucking hustle. I don't have to work 8 hours a day. I don't have to bloody force myself. I don't have to, like, sit in this scared energy of, am I going to make enough money this month? None of that matters. And that sounds so crazy to say, because honestly, I cannot express to you guys enough where I've come from. Like, as I told, the high school story, that is literally, and I'm almost in tears now just thinking about this. Like, it's a huge thing for me. It's huge stories that I had, horrible stories, and like, I think I'm kind of crying because it's sad to think, and this happens a lot now these days, I think back on past versions of myself and the way I used to talk to myself and treat myself. And it's just so, it's like a sadness for that version of me that, like, I can't believe that it's almost like grieving for a child or something, like I look back on those versions of myself and I feel like so sad for those versions of myself. The way I talked to myself, the way I treated myself, there was absolutely no need for this. And it's so sad to think, like, it's so painful still. Like, not painful, that's not the right word. Like, it's not painful in the fact that I feel, held by that past. It's like a painful, like, it's like a mourning of like, wow, I treated myself so poorly back then. The way I'd talk to myself, I would never talk to anyone that way, and we put ourselves through this. And I've honestly just come so far, and, I want you guys to know that if I can come this far, like, trust me, you can too. Like, this is possible. And this work makes it possible. And, yeah. Anyway, there's a few other exciting things that happened during that time. Oh my God. I got my motorcycle license. Yay. I'm in the market now for my motorcycle. Oh my God. And that's something I am currently manifesting. So send me your prayers, please. I want my motorcycle. It's been a few weeks now since I got my license, and I haven't ridden since then because I don't have a bike. So I'm super keen to get my bike. But I also just found out that I have to spend about $500 on my car because I accidentally hit something. Not even like an accident. It was like I think I was going into a car park and I hit the roof or something, and it just chipped a bit of paint and put a little bit of dent in the top of my car, the roof. Stupid. So that's stupid. But yeah. My God, my bike. I'm so excited. And many other things have happened in this time, honestly. But another exciting update is that I opened my Etsy store. And I have been releasing audios. So that is very exciting. That is kind of like the next chapter of my business. Of course, I'm still taking sessions. That is obviously always going to be the forefront of my work because I love Emotion, Body and Belief Code. And I believe in that work more than anything I've ever done. But I've been really getting into a lot of meditations and audios lately. Hypnoses, I've always kind of loved hypnoses, but kind of follow along meditations, visualizations, affirmations. And so I've released my first 3 audios. They are on my Etsy store, which you can find BEM Healing, BEM Healing, the same as my website. I think you can find it at bemhealing.etsy.com. I'll put it in the show notes. Or these audios are actually now available on my website as well. So www.bemhealing.com. And right now I've got 3. And they're just follow along morning kind of affirmations. Or there's a money one, which is like ask-formations, which are very similar to affirmations. But they are just worded slightly different to help penetrate the subconscious mind. But, and I've been doing kind of a lot of these kind of audios from other people and stuff each morning. It just helps, it's a great supplementation. Of course, I love Emotion, Body and Belief Code, but you need other things. We have a toolkit for a reason. Just to start your day right. Some, affirmations, things you can do in the mirror, things you can kind of say to yourself as you're still laying in bed, just to get the energy right as you start the day. And this morning, I've actually just recorded my first hypnosis. So that will also be released probably tomorrow or today, depending what I get done. I'll just go edit it and put it up on my Etsy and my website. And that is about a 15-minute hypnosis, a deep kind of meditation, which I learned about hypnosis a long time ago now. I reckon I did that course in 2019. And I always listen to hypnosis recordings. This was kind of like my very first thing in this kind of subconscious reprogramming, realm that I fell in love with this modality. Actually, the first time I ever saw a hypnotherapist, I was actually around 22 years old. I used to go to a hypnotherapist in person, and I did a number of sessions with her. But I love hypnosis recordings. I love these kind of like, you can just press play and put them on any time. You can just lay in bed, sit down. I listen to a lot of different ones. So I'm so excited to be bringing out my own. And the first one that I've just recorded is, of course, as you know, what I love more than anything probably is money. Everyone needs money. Everyone wants more money. and I love recording money stuff. I love helping people with money stuff. I love helping myself with money stuff, as I literally just talked about all this time. So it's about manifesting money, bringing money to you with more ease. And so I'm super excited to release that. So be on the lookout for that. But you can get my other 3 audios. So they're kind of like follow along. Very simple, very easy 5-minute audios, which are very sustainable. One of my friends, she bought them and she said she listens to all 3 of them. Because she said, it's only 5 minutes each. So I've recorded one about money, one just about general setting yourself up for a successful and confident day, and another one for physical body, loving your body, appreciating your body, physical health and mindset. So you can check those out on my website or my Etsy store, and keep an eye out for my first hypnoses. And basically in the next few weeks, I'm going to be releasing, I'm hoping kind of 1 a week. And those are just, a great supplementation to sessions. If you're already doing sessions, even if you're not doing body code sessions, just a great tool to use. I love hypnosis. It's just, you just basically just press play, relax. It's just like meditating. And as you're just laying there meditating, I am putting positive suggestions into your mind. And you're just relaxing, and your subconscious mind is taking it all in. So that is, I don't think I have much more to say. Do that exercise if you feel called to. It was very helpful for me. And then check out my audios. And of course, as usual, I am always available for sessions. Now, that's another thing that I did. I have almost completely removed in-person sessions. I'm also doing much fewer phone sessions. I am really now moving towards email sessions because I love doing them. And I love that flexibility that I can get in my schedule from doing email sessions. So I am really moving more to email sessions. But if you do prefer phone, they are still available. So you can check out those on my website. And thank you so much for listening. And hopefully the next episode will be much sooner than another 2 months away. And check me out on Instagram at BEM Healing for more updates, more content about reprogramming your subconscious mind, releasing emotional baggage, and just creating the life that you want on your terms. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye-bye!